Welcome to the Giggles and Shit show, everybody. I am happy to introduce my very good friend Brenda Holdsworth, who's here to join us on the show today. We know that you've been doing some good work, and you also are a recognized award-winning documentary maker. Wow, that is amazing.
It is amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's all new. It's sinking in.
Sinking in. So this is fairly recent. So we want to understand a little bit about you. We'd love to understand sort of your background. How did you get into this? What was the catalyst for the documentary? And we even have a clip that we're going to play as well.
Great. I've been wanting to do a documentary for, the last 10 years. It's been one of those. I kind of want to do a documentary in my life, and I thought it would be around weddings because that's a lot of my history and where I really came to love storytelling with film and being able to, that's where I learned how to tell the story with film. And I wanted to tackle a bigger subject. And I've studied documentaries for years. So it was kind of a thing I was ready to jump into, and I thought it would be about weddings or something when I did get around to it, but suddenly I kind of found myself in the midst of
Controversy.
controversy, yeah, misinformation, hate, I don't know what do you want to call it, but we were just found ourselves in the middle of it here in Pickering, and I think there was a number of people that we were all just to the point of we can't do nothing anymore. It's just not acceptable, and because marginalized groups were being harmed and human rights were just being ignored, and we had a city councillor, as I call her, the naughty councillor. we you know she was spreading misinformation. She was hurting the black community, saying that we should be canceling history, Black History Month. She was continually posting homophobic and transphobic. Even after being sanctioned, she continues to post crap that just hurts people, and so yeah, there's community members, some parents of kids who identified, all different people that sort of just came together through protest, and just that wanting to try and make a statement to say, hey, she doesn't speak for us, because she calls herself the people's counselor, and that just hurts anybody who lives in Pickering.
Not all people, apparently. Oh my
No,
God.
only this many.
Yeah.
They're loud. That's the problem. They're really
Yeah.
loud and they're really hurtful.
So, can you take us back for those who are just understanding and learning about this? What I've come to understand is that there is a bit of history, a counselor who has certain very strong opinions. And I'd love to understand a little bit more about, when did this all start and was it on social media, and how did the group come together? Like, how did the protest come together? I'd love to learn a little bit more about the background for the people who are listening.
It all started in 2022 when the naughty counselor was elected. And it started off with cyberbullying was a 30-day sanction of pay, and then she just kept violating the code of conduct, and then it turned into a 60-day one for transphobia and homophobia, and then it turned into a 90-day one for the Black History Month comments, and
And
it
what were
just
they? Just help me understand. What did she actually say? She said she wanted to cancel Black History. What was her reasoning?
that yeah, that was her she wrote a whole article about it, and it was
Op-ed.
yeah, it was an opinion piece she wrote, and it just basically said that it shouldn't be celebrated. And she'll come off saying that we tried telling her Black History Month was just recently, or sorry, Black History Month, in schools, it's highly recognized, and it's highly important to making kids feel included and part of the community. And yeah, it's just hurtful. She holds on to one person. There's some celebrity that said it one time that and it was a person of color, so they can have an opinion, but Lisa really shouldn't have an opinion on this matter at all.
And do you name this counselor in the documentary?
Yeah, yeah, we do. Her name is Lisa Robinson.
Okay.
I just don't like to give her name
No, you don't
any
want
other
to
time. No.
It's
Yeah,
kind of like
totally.
Voldemort, right?
Yeah, right? It's like, the counselor that shall have no name. It's
Yeah.
just
No, it's the same with the orange dictator down south. Diane and I have.
exactly.
So it started in, you said 2022, she was
2020,
elected. She started
yes.
to make her opinions known. You said she wrote an op-ed about why Black history should be canceled and shouldn't be taught in schools. Like, what is her rationale? Like, I'm trying to understand the mind of why and how, like, how do you justify, how did she justify something like that?
That one was a while ago. I can't remember to like quote the article, I can't remember anything to quote directly from it and because I don't know how you justify it. I
No.
guess that's the bottom line. So nothing sunk in because it
It
was
makes
just all
zero sense.
garbage.
Yeah.
And when it
Hmm.
happened, yeah, my husband and I, obviously we went to a council meeting because we wanted to hear what the Black community had to say to her and take our actions from what they had to say. And that was the thing, I think, where maybe stood up or decided, hey, because they said, you got to fix this. This isn't racism, is and transphobia. I always go back to this one, like it's not transphobia and homophobia. That is not a queer issue, that is a cis people issue.
Yeah.
Like it affects them, but it's not up to them to fix. It's
Right.
the problem is not theirs.
Yes.
And same with racism. I guess just listening to the community and what the Black community said, and they just said, hey, people need to stand up. And we had just the month or two prior to that been at a Soji protest, and that was another one that she was all over, doing speeches on her little blowhorn and things. And she does these speeches on the back of a truck, and she's just got all these. Just invokes these crowds of parents under the guise of, I'm here helping your children, and we're speaking for your children, and it's all about for the good of your children. And they refer to soji, which is sexual orientation and gender identity, and they refer to that as an ideology. It's not anything that's scientific, and they just make trans youth suicidal. I'm just going to say that that's
Hmm.
exactly what they do. If draw a line. And, so at these Soji protests, I met some of the speakers that got up, and, we all just sort of gelled and became this little family, a little chosen family of protesters. And we tried to think, what can we do to distract these, like, for example, a drag queen story time? How can we distract? We got these ugly preachers out there that are preaching hate, not love, and we call them bullies, not preachers. And they're out there telling the families that are just going to a drag queen story time at the library, like why is it any of your business if a family wants to go to a drag queen story time? And they will tell the children, your mother's going to hell and your mother does not love you. Like, I hope you have a good time burning in hell, and they're just the most wretched people. And I heard this story about one of the girls that actually, the mom and the daughter came and marched with us. And the daughter came home from a drag queen story time in tears, because she's hearing these things. Like, and you question, why are they saying that? Why do you really love me? And, so you have to
Hmm.
kind of help a child process hate. And it's not an easy thing to help a child process.
Right.
And so we try and get in the way of the ugly preachers. So one year we had a bubble dance party where as the kids and the families were coming out, we just sort of stood between them and where the kids are coming out and blew bubbles and danced. And then the next year we upped our game, and that's when we have this board here where we had actually members from the LGBT community come in and do the coloring and do the messaging, like "Shine on, Queens, love is love," and they did all the messaging, and then we delivered the boards. Because they shouldn't face those ugly preachers.
Right.
So we carried the boards, and Glitter is our unicorn sort of mascot, if you will.
Yep.
So Glitter led the parade, and we marched right past the ugly, preachers, and the library let us sort of line up right in front of the doors. So people coming out, they couldn't see them, and they let us play our loud music. So they couldn't see them and they couldn't hear them. And It's creative solutions to combating hate and misinformation. That's really kind of how it started. And after we did the several, like the drag queen story time, we also did one where we were sort of snapping back to her transphobic remarks. And so we went out there and did a little gender identity and information and education. So we have, Glitter did a video about that with some other boards. And so before we knew it, we had all these boards from Glitter snapping back at misinformation. And so we turned it into a big parade one day, and we actually went up and we met the mayor and we met the counselors, a few of the counselors, and we interviewed them and asked them some hard questions like, how much is this naughty counselor costing us, for example? And so we got some answers from council. The documentary also speaks to some of the activists to see, what drives them and, what activism means to them. So the documentary does have some voices from the community, and it also documents in a very creative way what went down with the naughty counselor, and it sort of timelines, like sanction 1, sanction 2, sanction 3, all the way until I think we ended off at sanction 6, but she's actually at 8 now.
So tell us a little bit about your journey to make the documentary. So obviously, as a concerned person who has, a strong value system, you joined forces with others who were of like mind and who felt like it was time to stand up and fight back against the hatred. And so tell us about, how did making a documentary come into this? You're protesting, you're disrupting, you're trying to deflect and disempower her. How did making a documentary actually come about?
I think it's when, it went from, just some civil snapbacks to, hey, this could be a documentary or this should be documented,
Mhm.
when we started seeing the bigger picture, because it's not about one naughty counselor, it's about one naughty counselor and all of her followers,
Yeah.
and what they do. And those followers, the far right, are organizing.
Mhm.
They are organizing.
Yeah.
And they have workshops that they lead monthly that are called conservatizing through municipal politics and school boards, things like this. They talk about how you can use GPT to help you write a speech to delegate and disrupt council meetings, because nobody cares about council meetings. Only 1 in 4 people vote in municipal politics. So nobody pays attention to it. And this is how they did it in the US. They dismantled and divided the people at the lower levels. That's where they divided the people. And then once that's in play, once you've got division among the people, then, the leaders at the higher level can, be causing tremendous chaos, as you can see.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have seen, yes.
Yeah, and but it starts at the municipal level, and it's a conscious effort, and there's a plan. And I think when I realized that the story was way bigger than my city and a naughty counselor, we decided that we wanted to take this message to other municipalities and, warn them about
Mhm.
how this is working and, what they're doing and how they're doing it and what our council did to respond as a city. I mean, I think some of the things worked and some of the things didn't, but people can learn from that regardless.
So why don't we pause there? And I'm gonna actually show the clip that you sent
Okay.
for everyone to see, and then we're gonna come back and talk about, how this is being received. You're an award winner now, which I want to get into as well, and talk a little bit about that. So we're just gonna take a quick moment to show the clip, okay?
Okay.
The city of Pickering has witnessed a growing infiltration of alt-right individuals.
They're trying to control, sow dissent, and intimidate our community.
They have a plan, and they're organizing more and more each day.
In a world being divided by misinformation and fear, we choose truth, we choose empathy, and we choose love. Our message is simple: everyone welcome. Rules were broken, trust was shattered, But something stronger emerged. The power of ordinary people who refuse to surrender their community to hate. Even in the darkest halls of power, courage can still find a way to shine. From the people of Pickering to municipalities across Canada, this is how quickly hate can take hold.
United, united, together we rise. United forever. Love wins the fight. This is our promise. True Canadian pride. Hooves up, hearts out, let love shine.
Pickering is the test.
Your city could be next.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
And a little strange.
Yes,
I
a
love
lot
it.
strange. A lot
I
strange.
love that it's come this far because I actually went to a couple council meetings when Brenda and her husband were speaking specifically about the human rights violations with that naughty counselor. I'm wondering if we should rename her Misinformation.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like she has information though, so I'm not
Oh,
sure.
yeah, that's true. True.
Misinformation. I don't know.
I'm
So-
just so thrilled for you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how did the documentary get released? Where has it been shown? And then tell us about how it's been received and the awards and recognition that you've received.
It's just very new onto the film festival circuit. So we've only entered a few. We didn't get into a couple, and then we got into one, and to the Niagara International Film Festival, where we were last weekend. And I was not expecting to win, but I walked away with a Best Future Documentary Award, which was absolutely thrilling. I didn't honestly even know what the award was at first, but I have looked into it and I asked them, "Can you just clarify what you mean by like a future documentary? Because it's not about the future." And they're like, "Well, it is about future impact and the impact that your film has a great potential for having impact." And so it's about a documentary that has a powerful subject. It has strong storytelling, which our storytelling is very creative. It's literally a storybook read by a drag queen. And then it zips off to show like real life experiences and, clips from different council meetings and things. So it's telling a really awful, difficult story, but it's telling it in a way that's palatable. Yeah.
I mean, it's so timely that you're, having it showcased this month being Pride Month. It's so important for the message to get out there. And it's about pride and acceptance and love. And, I'm just so grateful that you have the courage to make something like this and to stand up. Not everybody has that courage or that ability. And I just think you should be commended for doing that. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes. Bravo.
thank you. I just, no, it's just, it isn't something that I gave a lot of thought to. It's just, it felt right and it grew on its own. What started out with this group just grew and became what it was. Like I said, we just got the first unicorn just thinking, oh, that's just to combat the guys at the drag queen story time. And then, I didn't expect at the time it was going to turn into a documentary or anything. And other people, like lots of people play glitter. It's not, sometimes I'm glitter, but sometimes I'm not. Yeah, and other people have stepped in and they have a great time, It's so we're trying, we have fun with it. And we've really met a special group of people that feel part of belonging. I think that's really, and that's what they say on the far right too. Like part of it is you can tell them the right information, but they won't absorb it because if they absorb it, it means then they can't relate to the other people around them anymore. So they almost cling to the misinformation.
Yeah, I think Diane and I have had more than a few conversations about this for sure. And I think that hatred rhetoric is a defense mechanism for people who feel a loss of control and need somebody to blame. And so I think that whether you're in the United States and you're being, you know, rounded up by ICE because you're an immigrant and you look different and you speak different, it is a way or a symbol for people who don't have control, who don't feel like or do feel like they need somebody to blame for their situation. You know, we can go back to World War II, and Hitler did the exact same thing with the Jews and felt like people needed it. You know, it was coming out of, you know, austere circumstances from World War One, and Germany was really being persecuted and penalized for World War One, and there was a huge backlash. And people needed somebody to blame. And that's how the hatred works. And that's how it gains
That's how it grew.
steam. Yeah. And I think that, again, I'm just incredibly thrilled for you. And I'm honored that you're on the show. And I just think that I wish there were more people like you, Brenda, who could stand up. I'm
Isn't
There
going
it
to
are.
get
right?
emotional.
There are, and I'm
Yeah.
talking to two of them right now. You know, everybody can have their own different way and their own different level of, you know, of activism. It doesn't have to be making a documentary. You
Right.
know, whatever your
True.
level is okay. You know, wherever you're comfortable stepping out to is okay. This is a little outside of my comfort zone, admittedly, but it's just something that as I said, I felt compelled to be telling this story because the way that I saw it unfold and saw the people being harmed in it, you know, it's just the transphobia from her is really one that's just personally grates on my nerves in a horrible way. And I've come to know in this community several trans people, which I'd never really knowingly in my life before had a lot of contact in that. And just like the most beautiful people I've ever met, filled with love. And, you know, and some of them, you know, have parents that have sent them to conversion therapy.
Oh,
You know, it's horrific, the stories
Yeah.
that I've learned, and heartbreaking that anybody should not. And so it's, of course, you need SOGI education in schools because
yes.
some families really suck, you know. And yeah, it's so like
True.
SOGI is such a thing that I feel very strongly about. And when they started, you know, attacking that in school, that was my first deal to go after. And then meeting the community around that, and even this week, that whole family is suffering a terrible loss of a family member, and they're all just sort of at a loss as to we lost someone, died by suicide, and this happens in the community
A
way
lot.
more than it should, you know.
Yeah.
Way more than it should. And yeah, and people will, oh, in kindergarten you shouldn't be talking about gay people, and it's like, hell yeah you should, because Bobby has two dads, you know. Or hell yeah, Bobby himself knows that he's gay, but you know, everybody at home is telling him, don't be that way, don't be that way, don't be that way. And so where is he going to be himself, you know? Because kids know young, and to say they don't is just stupid at this
Yeah.
point in life. Science is
Yeah.
like way ahead of you, so don't be stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's a passion project, but it's one that I'm extremely proud of. So I thank you very much for letting me come on here and talk about it.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
how can
Anytime.
people support the cause, and then how can they support you? You know,
Yes.
this is local to Pickering today, but as the clip said, this is affecting, you know, this is Canada wide. It's global, unfortunately, but how can people support the initiative within Durham region or Pickering? Can they get involved? And is there like a website or some way that they can actually get involved if they'd like to join the cause?
Yes, absolutely. The glitter squad, we call them. You know, we have like last weekend we went out to and had just art board at a trade show at the Pride Marketplace sort of thing, where people could come in and write messages of love. And so right now it's about the film, but you know, eventually Glitter wants to get back to their roots and be doing more, you know, back in the community again. You know, that's where Glitter really wants to be. But right now we're just doing the festival thing. You know, we can't really ask you to come out and buy tickets and see the film yet, but this fall we'll get to that point.
Okay.
But online, you can follow Glitter online. They would love to have your friendship on Facebook. Hooves Up is the name, so look up for Hooves Up. with a touch of glitter. And Hooves Up is also on Instagram. So you can get Instagram, and it's also hoovesup.ca if you just want to check out the preview again yourself. It's on there. And Glitter also has a YouTube channel that's filled with all the different videos that they've done.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Amazing. We will include all of the links
All the
in
links,
the description of the episode, the podcast. And we also have a newsletter that comes out once a month, which we'll also include as well. So if there's anything that you would like us to include, we'd be happy to for the
Lovely.
newsletter.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And can
Thank
I
you
just
so
say,
much.
as far as the whole reason for the documentary as well, like Brenda was saying, that the far right is very organized. They are getting together, they're doing the things. Us on the left are going to have to start organizing ourselves to do anything about this for our future generations, because it's sickening and it's gross that it's out there. But like you said, it's up to the cis community to do something about it. And
Yeah.
if this is the start of a movement, then bravo. I truly hope it is. But
Yeah.
you're right. It's a thing that's happening on their side, and they are very organized. We have to get organized. We got to grab your torch and pitchfork and storm the castle.
Make some noise. Yeah.
Yes.
Hooves
yes.
up. Hooves up.
Hooves
we'll
up.
say.
However
Hooves
we
up.
gotta do it. Hooves up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brenda, for being on the show and
Yes.
sharing your story, and again for being such an amazing champion for justice, love, and acceptance. It's just been amazing and fascinating, and thank you for being part of the Giggles and Shit community as well.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Diane, are you going to take us out?
All right. I guess that's another episode of the Giggles and Shit Show, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you again, Brenda. Always a pleasure. Take care, everybody.
And don't forget, keep on giggling. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Giggles and Shit Show. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe on Substack at gigglesandshit.substack.com so you'll never miss an episode. You'll get all our content, podcasts, videos, and newsletter delivered right to your inbox. Join our chat to post your very own shit or hit list. We want to hear about the shit that's driving you crazy or making your week a hit. Come laugh, cry, and keep it real with us and our Gen X community.